I the asshole for telling my sister that her wife's family was being insensitive to my daughter? My sister and her wife had their first baby girl a few days ago. I also have a daughter, 5 years old. However, for my sister-in-law's family, this is the first granddaughter. Both of her sisters have boys, so they've all made it apparent that they are excited that it's a girl. When my daughter and I went to the hospital to see the baby, my sister-in-law's family was there. They are usually very nice to my daughter. However, this time they probably only spoke 2 words to her. I was expecting everyone to be paying attention to the baby anyways, but they kept saying things like, "You are the most perfect little girl in the world," and "You're the prettiest girl I've ever seen," to the baby, which wouldn't be a bad thing if my daughter wasn't there. My sister barely spoke to my daughter, which also hurt her feelings. Her wife saw that my daughter was getting upset and was a little more kind to my daughter than the others, and kept telling her that she's going to be the best big cousin and so on. However, after that, it was like she didn't exist. I decided to leave because I felt awkward. I was just going to walk about because I didn't want to draw attention to myself, but when my sister asked why I was leaving, I told her that niece felt ignored, and I didn't want to put her through that, so we would come back when less people were there. My sister's mother-in-law chimed in with a sarcastic apology and said that they're just excited about the baby. I told her that it's fine to be excited, but showing favoritism and comparing beauty isn't. My sister-in-law got mad at me and told me that I'm starting the drama. I told her that her family comparing beauty and pretending my daughter doesn't exist is what's starting the drama. My sister-in-law's sister told me to leave, and my sister just sat back and let her wife's family all gang up on me. It's been a few days since then, and my sister still hasn't reached out to me. I feel like I could have overreacted, but I know what it's like to feel excluded and ignored. I don't want that for my daughter. I'm conflicted on whether to apologize to my sister or not. On one hand, I don't like how she sat back and allowed her wife's family to attack me. On another hand, this is something I would never do to her or my new niece. I need an unbiased opinion here. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for telling my sister that I will prioritize my husband above her? Recently, my daughter, 7 female, had a health scare that required her to stay in the hospital for 5 days for tests. Fortunately, it was for something smaller and not as scary as we feared. My daughter needed an adult to stay with her all day and night at the hospital. Only one visitor at a time in the room from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. My husband can't be with my daughter all day because his job demands a lot, and we have our other son to take care of, 12 male. So we decided that I would be with our daughter all day. During his lunch hour, he stayed with us from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. My sister and I are close. She is my daughter's godmother, and I have no doubt about her love for my daughter. She and my husband have their disagreements and are not that close, but nothing major. When my sister heard the news, she sent a message saying that she would like to come help stay with my niece, and I said that I didn't need it. She asked about if she could visit during her lunch, which coincides with my husband's schedule. I said that in that time, my husband comes to see us, but that she would be welcome at any other time. She said that she couldn't do it at a different time and she had to work, and asked if she and my husband could alternate a few days. I asked my husband about this, and he made it very clear that this is the only time he can and wouldn't give up, especially at such a stressful time. At the time, we didn't know it was something minor. I responded to my sister saying that unfortunately this schedule wouldn't work because of my husband, but that she would be welcomed at any other time. She said that we were being unfair because she would also like to see her goddaughter at this delicate moment, and it wouldn't hurt to give her a little time, and she mentioned that maybe he would think different if it were anyone else. I was honest here, saying that this wasn't about her, and that I would give preference to my husband when visiting, but she is free to go at any other time. But if that's not possible, she will have to respect that my husband comes first. She was not happy and said that we could compromise on her spending some time with my daughter, but we decided to be selfish and not realize that other people who also love my daughter very much would like to have time with her. In the end, she managed to leave work early one day and stayed with us for 30 minutes, but to this day, 1 week later, she's still upset and avoiding long conversations with me. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for wanting to go hiking on Valentine's Day instead of staying home? A few weeks ago, my friend Kaylee and her boyfriend had a picnic on a hiking trail near our school. I thought it was so romantic when I saw her pictures on Instagram. I, 20 female, have been getting more into hiking in the last year. I've been trying to get my boyfriend Jamie, 20 male, to join me so we can do things together, but this hasn't been very successful. Jamie is pretty overweight. He prefers staying home and gaming or watching movies, which is fine and all, but most of our dates, 3 to 4, tend to be geared towards what he wants to do. He says it's because he has joint pain. Valentine's Day is really important to me. My parents are total romantics, and they always went all out on dates and anniversaries when I was growing up. They are my relationship goals. A few days ago, Jamie asked me what I wanted to do for Valentine's Day. I said I wanted to go visit that hiking trail and go on a picnic. Jamie made a face and said he can't do that because of his knees. Instead, he suggested we go watch Madam Web. I don't want to watch Madam Web because 1, it looks terrible, and 2, it's no different than any other dates we've had before. I really want something special and more memorable. I barely remember the dates where Jamie decides what we get to do. I admit, I got emotional. Jamie just rolled his eyes and said I was being whiny and that I don't care about his health. He can't and won't hike, and I'm being a lousy girlfriend for wanting to do things he can't do. His friends agree with him and mine agree with me. I think they only think that I'm not the asshole because I'm their friend. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for breaking up with my girlfriend because she's still friends with the guy she cheated with in her previous relationship? Me and my girlfriend were together for about a year. Some weeks ago, we were hanging out with some of her friends, not the friend in question. We were playing a little quiz game, and one of the questions that popped up involved cheating. I mentioned that I hate cheaters, and after that, I noticed one of my friends give my girlfriend a look, and also noticed my girlfriend got a bit uncomfortable. It was weird, and it got me thinking. The next day, I asked my girlfriend about it. She said that she wasn't going to lie and admitted she cheated on her ex. This was a year before she met me. I felt upset about it because she had never mentioned it before, and I asked what happened. She mentioned that one time she got drunk and hooked up with her friend. Let's call him B. B is a former friends with benefits of hers, and they still hang out regularly. I knew that my ex-girlfriend and B had a history, and while I didn't like that they hung out, I just dealt with it. I was pretty upset because not only did I find out she was a cheater, but she still hung out with the guy. I told her I needed some time to think, and after 2 days, I decided to break up with her. I didn't want to tell her that she can't be friends with me, and I knew I couldn't deal with her still being friends with him, so I just removed myself. So Reddit, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for divorcing my wife after she changed her mind about having children? I know how that sounds, but I just feel like I'm losing my mind. Before and after marriage, we've talked about and planned our future down to the very city we would live in, and kids were always a part of it. Well, around September, I brought up when she'd want to start trying for a kid, and she got really cold and told me she didn't want any. At first, I thought she may have gotten some health news, and when I told her that we could adopt if the idea of pregnancy wasn't for her anymore, she kind of snapped on me and said she wasn't trying to have this conversation at this time. A few days after this, I sat her down and asked what made her change her mind, and she got really frustrated with me that I'd even ask and pretty much said she doesn't need to explain herself to me. Since those 2 conversations, it was so strange. She kept trying to move on and act as if those conversations didn't happen. So I straight up told her, we have to actually talk about it because this shit was bizarre. She told me I'm not going to make her talk about anything. So the last couple of months have basically been her frustrated that I won't let this go. The kid thing was a big part of it, but if I just knew what was going on, I'd feel better. So I brought up divorce, and she told me I'm trying to strong arm her into childbirth. So Reddit, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for yelling at my ex-wife after she called her newborn son her first child, completely disregarding our daughter? So, my ex-wife Anna and I divorced, but we were mostly good at co-parenting our daughter, who is now 7 years old. When our daughter was 2, I remarried to Barbara. They developed a close bond. Our daughter started calling Barbara Mom, which I found adorable. However, Anna didn't like this and demanded that I stop our daughter from calling Barbara Mom. I refused, as I believed it was our daughter's choice and something Anna would have to accept. Anna tried to get our daughter to stop calling Barbara Mom, but when she realized it wasn't going to happen, she finally gave up. I was relieved that she stopped pushing the issue. Anna then remarried to Carl when our daughter was around 6. Carl, being a strict Marine, wasn't as involved in playing the role of stepdad to my daughter as Barbara was, which was fine with me. Anna got pregnant at the beginning of the year, and she and Carl became consumed with preparing for their new arrival. Anna distanced herself from our daughter, using every excuse like needing to rest for the baby and attending parenting classes with Carl since it was his first child. Last September, Anna gave birth to a boy, which I knew was something she always wanted. However, after her son was born, she distanced herself even further from our daughter, claiming she needed to bond with her son. Now here's where the conflict arises. One day, Anna referred to her newborn son as her, quote, first child, completely disregarding our daughter. This upset me greatly, and I ended up yelling at her. I felt like she was neglecting our daughter and prioritizing her new baby to an extreme extent. Carl proceeded to yell back at me, saying, "Don't ever raise your voice at my wife." They left shortly after, and Anna has since blocked me and is being even more distant. It is hurting my daughter a lot. Am I the asshole for yelling at Anna in this situation?
Am I the asshole for wanting a Valentine's Day card? I, 22 female, ordered a customized Valentine's Day card for my fiance, 27 male. Nothing extravagant, it came to less than £5 with delivery. I'm a very sentimental person, and I see cards with a written message as a small but meaningful gesture and tend to hold on to these quite dearly. I've still got cards from my 16th birthday. It arrived today in an envelope which showed the brand of the company that is quite well known for custom gift/card. To which my partner asked, "What is it?" And I said it's a Valentine's Day card I had ordered for him. At hearing this, his face scrunched up and he made a comment about how he won't be getting me a card because getting someone a card 3 times a year is too much effort and time. For reference, I get a card at Christmas and for my birthday from him. We started bickering over it, and I tried to explain I'd rather a cheap card or a handmade card with a message than going out on a date and having to spend his money covering the bill. And that him saying he'd rather go out, make what I think is a small amount of effort to get and write a card kind of feels like he'd rather just throw money at the problem instead of doing something sentimental. He's now calling me demanding and ungrateful and got annoyed at me as I was starting to get emotional and crying. I told him that he had really upset me, and all he said back was that I've upset him. I'm at a bit of a loss here as to what to do and if I was in the wrong for pushing him on this. He hasn't booked anything for Valentine's Day, nor had he even mentioned wanting to go out, which is why I thought a small card would be a nice gesture. I wouldn't have minded if he didn't get one for me, but it's more the comment he made about it being too much effort. Am I the asshole?
No. Am I the asshole for giving more money to my daughter than my sons and saying that my grandkids are not my responsibility? My wife and I have 3 boys. Boy 1, 34, boy 2, 30, and girl 26. As we have good careers, we were able to pay for all of their college tuitions, which varies on year, degree, and university. The 3 were all about the same, no big changes. Our 2 boys decided to get a degree and get to work. However, our daughter decided that she'll do a postgraduate. My wife and I have decided to pay for that as well. We have always valued education a lot, so we think that if we can help, there's no reason to not do so. Our 2 sons are upset over this news. They think that we're spoiling our girl. Both of them said that they all should get the same treatment. I told them that this is because their sister is choosing to pursue higher education than they did, so she should get more money. Our oldest said that's unfair, and instead of giving the money to our daughter, we could start a college fund for our grandchildren. I told him that absolutely not, because their kids are their responsibility just as my kids are mine, so I'd rather pay for my daughter than my grandkids. I'm not saying that because I don't love my grandkids. I love them with all my heart, but I don't think that my kids should count on me to pay their kids' stuff. My sons are upset. They're upset with me and my wife because we're paying for our daughter's college, and they're upset at me for my comment about their kids. They said that we're once again spoiling our golden child and that I'm picking favorites. Them versus their sisters/my daughter versus my grandkids. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for not returning money my ex-husband sent to me mistakenly? A few days ago, my ex-husband mistakenly transferred two payments of $8,700 and $9,275. He did this at around 7:40 in the morning, and I didn't notice because I worked a double night shift and was getting ready for bed. So my phone was charging on the nightstand. At the same time, my four children were at my parents', so I had planned to sleep away half the day. I guess he realized his mistake around an hour later, but by then I was dead asleep. I woke up at around 4 p.m. to at least 100 missed calls and maybe 150 text messages asking and begging me to send him back the money. My initial thoughts were to send it back, but then I remembered he owed me $12,000 and hadn't paid me back since I lent it to him 4 years ago. Oh, hell no. My ass would have immediately took my cut. I would have taken, bro, you sent me almost 18 grand. Immediately, I'm taking my 12 out of it. You can have what's left. I lent him $12,000 4 years ago, and he has a million excuses as to why he can't pay me back. Yet, I always see him living it up. I kept the amount that he owed me and only returned about $6,000. And I told him I deducted his debt, period. I would have done the exact same fucking thing. Since then, I've had him calling me every name in the book because this was apparently money he was saving to buy his girlfriend an engagement ring. Really? You owe me $12,000, have an endless list of excuses as to why you can't pay me my $12,000, but you've managed to come up with 18 grand for an engagement ring. Okay. Well, it looks like y'all gonna be downsizing a little bit. Apparently, this money was saved to buy his girlfriend an engagement ring and to pay for the engagement venue. So according to him, he had to tell her. This then led to it ruining the surprise engagement he planned for the next weekend. His girlfriend has been bad-mouthing me, and it's caused a bit of a shitstorm with me. I had to shut down my social media, and even with his parents, who I did have a cordial relationship with, it's also been impacted. I discussed the situation with a friend and a colleague, and it was overheard by another colleague. He has called what I did a dickhead move, and I guess he shared it with a couple of other people. And now I'm not too sure on whether I'm being an asshole or not. Is this an asshole move? Call me an asshole, but I don't think this is an asshole move because, bro, you've had a list as long as my arm of reasons why you can't pay me back my money, but you are capable of saving it for an engagement ring. So fuck my money, right? Okay, well, fuck your engagement ring. No, hell no. Nope. This is karma. This happened the way it was supposed to fucking happen. Edit. The money was loaned to him after our divorce. We've been divorced for 7 years. I loaned him the money 4 years ago after he lost his job and fell behind on bills and his rent. This has nothing to do with his child support payments, of which he's also behind on, and that's being taken care of by court and the child support company. There are texts of him asking for a loan, and it included a repayment plan and the time, but he never stuck to it. So there's a legal trail if he ever decides to involve the law, but I seriously doubt he will because it would cost way more to sue me, and I think I would have won in court since I only deducted his debt to me. That's fucking crazy. That is fucking crazy. Also, he's the father of our 4 kids. Edit 2. Yes, I could have sued him, but it would have cost me way more to hire a lawyer. Suing someone isn't cheap. Lawyers cost real money, and a lawsuit takes real time. Edit 3. When I say, then I remembered he owed me money, you have to understand that I had just woken up after having worked a double shift. I'm a nurse, and I was still kind of exhausted when I got up. I could barely remember my own name, let alone anything else, so my initial instinct was just to return the money. But I quickly got to my senses. Girl, no, I don't think you're the asshole at all because you said he's owed you $12,000 for 4 years, but he's also behind on his child support payments. I truly feel like bro needs to be taking this money and putting it where the fuck it's supposed to go rather than dropping $20,000 on an engagement ring and venue for his new girlfriend. So no, absolutely not. I don't think you're the asshole at all. This just gives me a sense of petty satisfaction because at the end of the day, this man literally fucked himself over because all she has to do is screenshot these messages and the fact that he made these deposits to show that this man is like, it's possible for him to fucking pay his child support. He's just choosing not to. This man has the money. He's just choosing not to take care of his responsibilities. Like, this man just shot himself in the foot, and I love it. I love it.
Leftover. Pesto.
I refuse to meet my dad's new girlfriend. Get ready with me, anonymous story time. My parents separated 4 years ago, but they barely got their divorce last year. In my opinion, I don't think there's anything wrong with walking away from a marriage. I do believe that not everyone is meant to be with one another, but I do believe that there are proper ways in actually separating from one another, getting a divorce, and things like that. The reason I say I feel like there are proper ways to actually separate from your partner is because my dad just ended up grabbing his stuff, leaving, and left my mom with no explanation. My father refused to go to therapy, and not even long after, he ended up having a new girlfriend. My father claims that he's never cheated on my mother, but I ended up finding out that in the 90s, my father actually had a 7-year affair with this other lady, meaning he did cheat on my mom. He just didn't cheat on my mom during the time that they were going through the divorce and separation. There are many reasons why it's very difficult to believe my father, especially because he treated my mother pretty horrible during the time that they were separating and he was leaving. A year before my parents actually filed their divorce, my mom was undergoing treatment for breast cancer, and my father was very heartless. Although my parents weren't together, I feel like my dad should have still, been there for her, because one, he has a child, and two, how do you just pick up and leave someone you've been with for years and not care that she literally has cancer? I just feel like if I was in my dad's shoes, regardless if me and my partner had separated, I will still be there for him. One thing that also doesn't sit right with me was the fact that, yes, my dad took my mother to her cancer treatment appointments, but it's just more of the fact that he dropped her off and he literally left her alone during her appointment so he can go get the train for work. And as a child, it's just a sucky feeling, because I feel like he did it because he was forced to do it, or that way no one would bash him in the end. My father's job was very flexible with him, especially because of everything that was going on with my mom. One thing I want to clarify very quickly is during the time my mom was undergoing these cancer treatments, my dad had a new girlfriend already, but me as a child, I just wish that my dad would have done way more, especially because my mom and him were together for such a long time. My dad has kids with my mom, so I just expected more from my dad, regardless if he had a girlfriend, and I just hope that his girlfriend would understand. Maybe a lot of people won't agree with the fact that maybe he was being very cautious, that way he doesn't hurt this new girl's feelings, but at the end of the day, that's my mom, and I just wish my dad would have done better. Anyways, fast forward a couple years later, my dad is still with this woman, and my mom is still very sick, very fragile. So I was actually with my father this day, and I overheard a conversation he was having, and basically, long story short, he said that he wanted to marry this new girl. And in that conversation, he also mentioned how he wanted me to meet his new partner. However, my mom is still alone, and she actually is very unhappy that I'm trying to play happy family with my dad and his new lady. Especially because my dad's new girl called my mom a couple of names, and my mom was not happy about that, which I totally understand. But at the same time, this is my dad, and also this is my mom, so what do I do? Of course, it was not okay that my dad's new girlfriend called my mom names, especially because my mom is a very fragile woman. In fact, my mother has had a history of abandonment by everyone, whether it was her previous relationships, whether it was her previous friends, even her brothers and parents. And honestly, I do feel very bad for my mom. Despite everything my mother has went through, she has been very loyal to me. She is such a loving person, and I just feel like the only thing I owe her is loyalty. So I'm stuck between whether I should actually meet my dad's girl or if I should just stick by my mother's side. Right now, if we're being honest, the only decision running through my mind is sticking by my mom's side and not meeting my dad's new girlfriend. I don't know if that's the right decision or not. If you were in my shoes, what would you do? Because the last thing I want to do is upset my mom. The last thing I also want to do is upset my dad. I feel like I am stuck. I don't know what to do. Let me know down in the comments below, what would you do if you were in my shoes?
Am I the asshole for giving my mother-in-law a fake copy of my house key and exposing her on Christmas dinner?
Ooh.
I want to preface this by saying that I, female, 34, married my husband, male, 37, 1 year ago. His mom is snoopy and annoying AF. She can't help
Organizing
it,
my
and this is
nightstand.
just the way she is, my dear in-laws say. My husband and I purchased a new house recently, and mother-in-law kept pushing to get an emergency key. She promised that she'd only use it in an emergency, but given the fact that she had an emergency key to our old apartment and walked in on us being intimate twice, my husband didn't think it was a big deal, but I just couldn't trust her, so I sent her a fake key after she kept pushing for one, and she had a smug look on her face after I hand-delivered it to her. Days gone by, and on Christmas dinner, mother-in-law angrily called me out for the fact that I gave her a fake copy of the house key. She shamed me for doing this in front of everyone, but in my defense, I asked her how she found out, and she said days ago when she came over at 4 while my husband and I were out. I reminded her, didn't you promise you wouldn't use it unless there was an emergency? So you tried to get in when there was no emergency, and you broke the promise you made to us. She looked red in the face, and the other family members
Kitchen
started
reset.
staring and even laughed at her for the face she made. She suddenly got up from her seat and rushed into the kitchen, where she had a huge meltdown so loud the next door neighbors must have heard.
Ooh.
Literally, I've never heard a 60-plus-year-old woman throw a tantrum like that. Needless to say, the dinner went awkward, and my husband and his sister were giving me looks. My husband went off on me in the car and said I lied and
Yellow
manipulated
thing
and
stop.
humiliated and exposed his mom, and he said he wouldn't have let me get away with it if he had known. We had an argument, and he is demanding I apologize to his mom for my childish behavior and for ruining Christmas dinner with the whole family. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for refusing to let mother-in-law spend the night in my bedroom and lock the door? Context. My husband, male 34, and I, female 26, got married 9 months ago. We live in a different town from his parents, and his mom visited us unexpectedly on Friday. Now, to give some context about my mother-in-law. She is okay-ish, but
Quick
has no
desk
respect for her
reset.
son's privacy and, by extension, mine. When it was time to go to bed, mother-in-law requested that we let her sleep in the bedroom, on the master bed, and not just that, but lock the door as well, because she explained she can't feel comfortable enough to sleep without locking the door. I found this bizarre, but I politely declined and suggested other options like the guest room, couch, or an air mattress, but she turned around and presented these options to me. My husband agreed, but I said no. This initiated an argument between her and I. During the argument, I pointed out how I didn't want to be kept out of my room and away from my stuff, but she lashed out at my husband saying, "Don't you just stand there, say something." My husband told me to let her, it's just one night, but I told her those were all the options I had for her, and if she didn't like them, then I could book her in a hotel. She took it as I was kicking her out and started crying, which made my husband upset. She left at 12 a.m. and my husband blew up saying I disrespected his mom, who was a guest at our house, and treated her poorly. He then reminded me it's our bedroom, not just mine, and I acted horribly to her, causing her to go stay in a hotel in the middle of the night. He went to book a room in the same hotel as her and turned his phone off. The next day, she went home and told the family, who berated me, calling my behavior towards mother-in-law abhorrent and loathsome. Now my husband is complaining about how I keep trying to ruin his relationship with his family and push them away. But I want to know if I was really the asshole.
Am I the asshole for asking my in-laws to pay if they want to see my kids? My husband passed away when our kids were 1 and 4. It was obviously a very tough time, and my in-laws were amazing. They took care of me as much as they did the kids. His sisters made us meals, and their husband helped with the yard and the housework. I once called my father-in-law to come get us from a grocery store because I basically had a breakdown when some lady was rude. He came with my mother-in-law so they would take care of the kids and get me and my car home. After I put myself back together, about 8 months later, they were still there for me. They would help with the kids while I worked. When I went back to school, they supported us. After I graduated, the best job I could get was a fair distance away, but it was in a city where I have family. We talked and prayed about it, and they said they understood why I needed to plan for our future. Problem is that they always want to see the kids, which is great. They're wonderful people, and my kids and I love them. However, I'm starting my career kind of late in life. I cannot afford to take a week off to take my kids a couple states over or to fly there for a weekend visit. And the kids are too young to travel by themselves. The kids and I spent Thanksgiving with my mom and dad, so we spent Christmas with my in-laws. It's only been a month, and now they want the kids and I to come back for my mother-in-law's birthday. They want us to come to the lake in the summer and a bunch of other things. I'm not going to be able to save any money if this keeps on. I finally spoke with them and was clear that I wanted them to be a huge part of my children's life, but that if they wanted to see them that much, they needed to contribute money. For example, I said that they could drop the kids off for 2 weeks this summer, but they would have to either pick them up or drop them off. I would do the other. And that they could come to my city to visit instead of always expecting me to drive there. I sold my last house and purchased a new house with an in-law suite so that they could even stay with us, but they have never used it. I know that they are close-knit and all live in the same city, but it is a big commitment for me to be the one responsible for them seeing the kids. They are upset that I am being this way, and one of my sister-in-laws called me to tell me that her family was disappointed that I was being this way after all they did for us. I feel bad, but I'm just not able to do everything they want without them helping out financially. Am I the asshole here? Am I the asshole for telling my mother-in-law that she isn't allowed at our wedding ceremony if she can't accept the fact that my daughter will be the flower girl? I, 25 female, am marrying my high school sweetheart, 26 male. We decided to finally tie the knot after nearly 7 years of dating. I truly love him and thankfully get along with most of his family, except for his mom. She is continuously nagging at me for not giving her a grandson. I know this may be harmless, however, my fiance has repeatedly told her that she already has a grandchild, my baby girl 5. She's my best friend's daughter. They sadly passed away. She was my godchild, so it only felt right that I should take her in and bring her up in the way I knew her mother, my best friend, would want. Recently, we have begun getting bridesmaid dresses, etc. We both decided to make our newly found daughter a flower girl. She loves flowers, and this seems like the perfect opportunity to help her feel like we take her as our own. As a recent family gathering, my fiance's mother has non-stop been horrible to my baby girl. Let's call her Ellie, saying things like, I simply don't understand why an adopted child should take place of a true blood, which simply makes my blood boil, along with the many other comments she made. I pulled her to the side, asking her to tone down her comments, knowing how much this meant to Ellie. She kept saying I was being rude to my new family by making someone who, in her eyes, has nothing to do with me. I immediately snapped. Feeling outraged by her comments, Ellie is my godchild and I will always care and love her. She seemed hurt at my words but didn't care, immediately taking me and Ellie out of her house. When my fiance came home, he was confused as his mother had said I was being verbally abusive towards her and making threats. I did no such thing. Anyway, a few days passed and Ellie was upset as she noticed we haven't seen her cousins who were staying with my fiancés. Shoving all my anger up my ass, I finally decided to try and apologize and head to her house once more. All was fine until I heard a horrid scream. Rushing up the stairs, I saw Ellie crying whilst my fiance's mom was standing screaming at her while holding her teddy, which her mother made. They are inseparable and I know how much that means. It's a struggle to even wash the teddy, and I immediately snapped once more at her. She stood embarrassed as the whole family had gathered. She then gained confidence, saying she was upset that I had chosen fake blood over real blood. I think you can choose family, and a friend can be better. Real family than your own. I was upset watching Ellie crying as my husband grabbed the toy, taking her away from the heated situation. I finally had enough, saying if she has so much problem with her being the flower girl, she might as well skip the wedding and just join us for the reception. She began crying and I feel bad that I wasn't going to take back what I said. After leaving the family, she has been telling my husband to tell me to apologize, and they aren't messaging me as what I said was harsh. I found that bogus or whatever. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for breaking up with my girlfriend over the mother of my child? I, 28 male, and my ex-girlfriend, 26 female, have been together for a couple months. I recently broke up with her because she felt a way about me helping the mother of my child, 24 female. My daughter is 20 months old, and I can admit I wasn't the best father, and I take accountability for not being responsible as a man and as the father. When the mother of my child was pregnant, I wasn't present, and I regret that because she shouldn't have been through that alone, and I was in denial that she was pregnant. I wasn't in my child's life for a year because of my own personal feelings, and I was demanding a DNA test. I can't admit I disrespected her. She got the DNA test, and obviously she's my daughter. But anyways, I'm building a bond with my daughter and building the trust of the mother of my child. I still to this day keep apologizing to the mother of my child for what I've done. And she keeps telling me that it's in the past and she forgives me. She just wants to focus on being a better person and bond with our daughter. We're good now. There's a little bit of a background on the situation with her. I Zelle the mother of my child $500 every 2 weeks when I get paid to help pay for childcare and other expenses, even though she told me that it's okay and not to. But I do it because it's the right thing, and she's an amazing mother to our beautiful little girl. She set boundaries. We both did. We both agreed no new partners around her until the 1-year mark of the relationship. My ex-girlfriend never met our daughter because out of respect for our child. First off, I want to say that I like that you are taking accountability and you are willing to admit that you were wrong, because a lot of men don't. They double down. They still find reasons to try to deny the child, even though DNA says otherwise. But I do like, and I am going to acknowledge the fact that you're admitting that you're wrong. You're apologizing and you're taking your responsibility seriously. I like that. The mother of my child is pregnant again, not by me. And no, she's not with the father. He's a covert narcissist and abusive. He guilt-tripped her into having a baby. I feel as if he was trying to trap her. He called her all kinds of names because she wanted to end the pregnancy. Her son's father messaged me trying to start issues and badmouth the mother of my child. I made it clear that I'm not going to let anything happen to her, my daughter, and even her son. She's shown me everything. I've seen pictures of the abuse and even threatening messages that he sent her, as well as him stalking her. I can tell this pregnancy is taking a toll on her physically. She had to have an emergency C-section with our daughter, and she's still not fully healed from that physically. So yes, I've helped her get out of that relationship safely as possible. I just wanted to make sure she was safe and protected. I've also been helping out more financially because the job she works is a physical job and it takes a toll on her, so I've sent extra. I've made sure she eats, made sure that she has the things that she needs, because I've noticed she'll do things just for our daughter. She'll never take the time to take care of herself. All of her money goes to our daughter and her bills. She hasn't been able to work as much as she wants due to the pregnancy. I get where my ex-girlfriend is coming from, but the mother of my child's health is important. If she isn't okay, my daughter won't be okay. I agree. I truly agree with you. It's not a forever thing. I'll help her financially for her personal needs. Because she's a hardworking woman, she's already looking for an office job. I'm just trying to make sure the mother of my child is okay mentally, emotionally, and financially. Because knowing who she is, she would do the same for me. She never asked me for my help at all. She doesn't know how to ask for help. She's the type that'll struggle silently. She always has the brightest smile on her face, and most of the times, you'll never know that she's struggling behind it. She doesn't like to ask for help. I understand that. There's a lot of people like that in this world, and it honestly comes from your needs not being met when you were younger, needing things when you were younger, and knowing that other people or like your family and your parents aren't going to help you get the things that you need. You just don't ask for it. And when you get older, you end up like this. Because I'm exactly the same way. I will suffer by myself for a long time. I will not ask anybody for help. People have to notice me struggling and then reach out to me. And even then, I still might say no. Because it's just, it feels weird accepting help from not even just certain people, from people when it comes to certain situations. I broke up with my ex-girlfriend because, one, she doesn't like the fact when I see my daughter, it's with the mother of my child. She doesn't realize I'm just building my bond with my daughter and building trust. It's very understandable. If the roles were reversed, I would want her to earn my trust for our child. Second, she doesn't like the fact that I send over $500 every 2 weeks for our daughter to pay for childcare and other expenses for our daughter. Third, because I wouldn't let her meet my child. I made it clear this is a boundary, and I respect it because the mother of my child respects me too. Fourth, Me helping the mother of my child and making sure that she's okay. She doesn't like the fact that I'm just trying to make sure she's okay after leaving an abusive relationship. I truly feel like you're not the asshole, that you're doing the right thing. You're trying to make sure your daughter and the mother of your child is okay. And this girl doesn't respect your boundaries. Like, you said that you made it clear that none of the partners meet the baby until the 1 year mark in the relationship. This bitch thinks she's special after a couple of months and she's upset about it. Like, this is not about her. This is not about her at all. This is about you taking care of your family. That's it and that's all. Like, I completely understand her being upset, and I completely understand you breaking up with her, because if this is not something that you're willing to stop doing right now, and this is not something she's willing to accept. So by default, you guys have to go your separate ways. No, I'm not in love with the mother of my child, and she's not in love with me either. She's one of the strongest people I've met, and she's been an independent woman since she was 14. She had to grow up fast and be an adult fast. She doesn't ask for help, and she rarely accepts it. I had to convince her to let me help her, and that's okay. That is okay to ask for help. My daughter needs her mama, and for her mama to be okay. My big brother tells me that I'm not doing anything wrong. My big brother is actually friends and looks at the mother of my child as a sister. They knew each other before we even met. We met as a one-night stand. No relationship happened. My big brother held me accountable and was on my head, and I don't blame him at all. He's been looking out for my daughter and making sure that she's good. Am I the asshole for breaking up with my girlfriend over the mother of my child? Like I said before, I don't think you're the asshole. Like, your ex-girlfriend has every right to be upset, regardless of how, stupid we think it is that she's upset about things that have nothing to do with her. You're upset that I'm going to spend time with my daughter who lives with her mother. Get the fuck over it. Be upset. Those are your feelings. You can be upset, but get the fuck over it, because that's not going to change. You are upset that I'm sending money to my daughter's mother to make sure that everything in the house is okay, as you should. As the father, that is your job. That is your job, to make sure that your daughter has everything she needs. And and can acknowledge the fact that she needs her mama to be okay. And you are 100% willing to help her. I don't think you're doing anything wrong by doing that. I know a lot of times when there is a man and a woman trying to co-parent, a lot of the times we see that they are still hunching on each other. And I truly do not feel like this is that type of situation. I truly don't. I truly feel like this man is acknowledging that he fucked up in the past, and he's doing everything that he can to try to make it right. Like, that's true. That's how I see it. I see that you fucked up. You admitted it. Your brother held you accountable. He was on your shit. He never let you forget it. He told you that the way you were feeling and how you were acting was fucking wrong. Absolutely. I love that. And I truly think you're doing whatever you can to fix the situation. And I'm very proud of you. Good shit for stepping up.
Am I the asshole for leaving my niece's wedding reception early and taking my gift back? I, 45 male, have a niece who is 22 and just got married last weekend. The family is blowing up with drama right now because of what I and my wife did. I must preface this by saying my family can be pushovers. They really all hate conflict and will definitely let themselves be run over by someone else in order to not cause a fight. But I am not this way. The wedding was on a Saturday. Catholic ceremony in a church. That was at 3:30 p.m. The reception area was at a brewery about 15 minutes from the church. The reception was set to start at 5. Maybe this was stupid on the venue people, but they wouldn't open the bar or bring around the appetizers until the bride and groom had arrived. Service ended around 4:30 and everyone was told to go to the reception. The wedding party had a limo to take them and a separate limo to take the parents, the grandparents, and the siblings. The couple is young and decided against family in the wedding party. It was 4 sorority sisters and fraternity brothers on each side. My wife and I drove, and we got to the venue around 4:50, with the first family limo arriving around that time. By 5, I'd say all 150 guests were there, but no bride or groom. The wedding coordinator was getting pissed, as it is now 5:45 and still no wedding party. We were all just standing around with no food or drinks. Someone was able to get a hold of the maid of honor around this point, and apparently the bride and groom told the limo driver to stop at a liquor store and then drive around on the highway for an hour so the wedding party could get trashed. At around 6, the maid of honor said they should be arriving within the next 20 minutes. My wife and I looked at each other and said, we're out. We thought it was horribly disrespectful for them to do that to all of their guests. I told my brother, who's the father of the bride, that we were leaving and taking the gift with us. He tried to plead by saying they're just kids, let them have their fun, but I was having none of it. A few days after, I got an apology text from my niece, followed by an ask for the gift again. I said that I felt very disrespected and didn't want to give a gift anymore. She snapped and called me an asshole. So, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for telling my dad he is not entitled to a relationship with me? When I, 27 female, was around 10, my parents divorced. It was a messy thing. No one ever told me the reason, and I do not really care. My mom won custody because she was able to prove in court that my father was an unfit parent. My father never took it well, and it showed whenever I had visitation with him at his house, which was 2 weekends a month. Instead of spending time with me, he would spend hours playing video games, order takeout, and the only time he would ever take me somewhere was when my grandmother forced him. Needless to say, I never had a very close relationship with him. Then once I got older, he started to bring up a college fund he had set aside for me, and he always said that if my grades stayed up and I do well in school, the money would be mine, and I did just that. I got good grades, was part of many clubs in school, and never got in any trouble. I was basically the kid your parents brought up when they were comparing you to your friends. In my senior year, my dad got married to his current wife. It was a beautiful and extravagant ceremony. I'm pretty sure some of the arrangements were more expensive than my phone, but whatever. I didn't think much of it. It wasn't until I went to talk with my dad about my college fund that I found out that he used it to pay for his ceremony. I was in disbelief when he said it, and the more he explained, the more I wanted to cry. He didn't even apologize. He said it with all the casualty of like, oh, you were looking for that thing you left in the fridge? Sorry, I ate it. My bad. When he realized that I was upset, he turned it around on me and told me that I was being selfish, then that I was not entitled to his money. Luckily, I got a scholarship that covered my entire tuition. Also, my mom and stepdad had set up a fund aside for me. They apparently knew my dad would pull that one on me, so I was able to go to college without a lot of debt. Since then, I've been distanced from my dad. I'm not gonna lie, I feel conned. If the money was always his, why did he bother mentioning it to me? I don't care if he used it or not, but to promise someone something, hold it over their head for years, and not give it to them when you should because they're not entitled to it is just a too lengthy way to say that you're an unreliable ass in my eyes.
Yeah.
My dad has tried to reconcile, but he still claims that I was not entitled to that money and even says that the money was not needed because I got a scholarship. The last time he said that to me was when I was at his house, visiting my new baby brother. I got so damn annoyed that I said, I'm not entitled to your money, but you're also not entitled to a relationship with me, so I guess we're in a stalemate here. I guess that hurt him because he got quiet until I left. I have been remembering what I said for a while, so I wonder if it was way too out of line in my statement. I was annoyed and wanted him to stop bringing it up, but I didn't want to hurt him. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole because I don't want either of my future sister-in-laws to be a bridesmaid? No. Your bridal party is who you choose to stand up with you when you get married. No. My fiance, 27 male, Rob, and I, 26 female, have been together for nearly 8 years, engaged for a little over a year. We've been living with each other now since 2021. Around this time, I guess when it became apparent that we were serious, an animosity between his parents and one of his sisters started to develop. We've had some ups and downs, usually starting a down period when I say or do something they don't like or agree with, such as having a boundary. Oh gosh, really? I could list every infraction over the last few years and end up with an encyclopedia level of volumes where 99.9% of those would make you laugh cry. I need to hear some. We love a good laugh cry. Now, we love a good laugh cry. I need you to just go on and just sprinkle some of those infractions on us, please. These down periods usually end up with me having to make a compromise to keep the peace. Now, none of these boundaries are unreasonable. Asking that they not turn up at our house unannounced and uninvited is one of them. To only invite us to dinner over the weekend. We work an average of 12-hour shifts during the week. Damn, what do y'all do for a living? Not me being nosy. No, but honestly, no, these boundaries are not unreasonable. Don't come to my house without telling me you're coming to my house. Don't ask me to come for dinner unless it's on the weekend because, bitch, I worked 12 hours today. And guess what? I'm going to take a nap and do it again tomorrow. So I'm not coming during the week. Like, no, that's not anything to create issues over. None of these boundaries are unreasonable. However, these two in particular cause the most grief because it means that I don't like them, apparently. Dramatic much? Came time to plan our wedding. We're having a small ceremony, maxing out at 50 guests. We agreed we only wanted a small wedding party. 2 bridesmaids and 2 groomsmen. No page boys and flower girls except. What's a page boy? What is a page boy? Okay. That's the first time I've ever heard of that. I chose my only sister as my maid of honor and a close friend as my bridesmaid. We sent out the save the dates. Rob handed his personally to his family. No sooner had he done that, had his mother Jan gotten in his face and demanded to know why neither of his sisters were in the bridal party. Because I don't want them in the fucking bridal party. Duh. Rob mentioned that we were originally going to elope, but felt that it excluded family, so we opted for a small ceremony. Jan then stated that she would prefer us to elope, then said I should remove my close friend as the bridesmaid and have one of his sisters. I would rather you elope because your sister's not a part of the bridal party. Bitch, what? I would rather you not have a wedding because you don't have one of your sisters in the bridal party. Okay, bitch, you can't come. Originally, Rob had no problem with not having his sisters as bridesmaids. Now, he seems to have changed his mind, so he says. But I think that Jan getting in his face has caused some emotional conflict in his mind, and he just wants to keep her happy. Probably, but now is the time for him to learn that his mother's happiness is not more important than his wife's. Now is the time for him to make the decision. Are you always going to do things to make your mother happy over your wife's happiness? Now is the time for your future husband to make that decision. And depending on the decision that he makes, lets you know if you should go through with this wedding. Because if he chooses to put his mother's happiness over yours, it's not going to stop at your wedding party. It's not. This is how your marriage is going to be. Because of my having to relent usually, I don't want to change our arrangements and I want this aspect to remain solely my choice. As I've never asked Rob to include one of my brothers as his groomsmen, it's his choice who he has. But now it's caused this whole argument where I'm being called a bitch and spiteful because I don't want to relent. Be that then. Be the spiteful bitch that refused to allow his sister to be a part of your wedding party because it's your wedding and you don't want her to be a part of your wedding party. Be that. That's fine. That's absolutely fucking fine. I personally would be looking at my hubby to be because why are you not backing your fucking mom up off of me? Like, hell, girl, you knew this was going to happen. You knew this was going to happen. You guys have been together for a long time. You knew this was going to happen. Stick to your guns. Stick to your fucking guns. I've always been told that the wedding is about the couple, and it's not their responsibility to keep everyone happy with their choices. Given their history, I can't trust that they'll get their way this one time, then not demand more changes the closer we get to the date. I don't think I'm being unreasonable, but am I? Okay, no, you are not being unreasonable by wanting to keep your wedding party something that you chose because that's what you want. No. But you are, in fact, being about dumb as hell. There is an entire red flag beacon in the sky, and you are just completely ignoring it. You have been with this man 8 years, and within the last 3 years, his parents and one of his sisters has done a complete 180 on you, and they all of a sudden have a whole lot of issues with the fucking boundaries that you guys are putting in place, and you are still going to marry this man. After you said yourself that most of the issues end with you having to compromise, meaning you give up your boundaries to keep the peace, you're still going to marry this man. You might as well tell your friend that she can't be a part of the wedding and add one of his sisters, because you're planning to marry into this family. This is what your life is going to be like. This is what your life is going to be like. You think things are going to change after y'all say I do? No, girl, you might as well go ahead and add your sister-in-law as one of your bridesmaids. Because if you're going to marry into this family, this is how your life is going to be. Oh, Nah, girl, baby, you're not the asshole. You're not the asshole.
I honestly never thought I was gonna get myself to talk about the worst date I've been on, but let's get into it. I'm also running on 4 hours of sleep, which is why I look like this, so please disregard that. I met this guy on Instagram, and I'm very picky when it comes to meeting guys in general, but I'm extremely picky when it comes to actually linking up with the guys I meet from Instagram or just any social media platform. We're gonna call this guy Edwin. Edwin and I actually had prior conversations before him and I hung out. Honestly, he was pretty chill and he never gave me those awkward or weird vibes. One day he was like, oh, let's go out, and I would literally ignore this guy. When I say ignore, I'm not saying I would ignore our messages. I would mainly ignore the times he would ask me out on a date, because it wasn't more than once or more than twice. This guy had asked me maybe about 5 or 6 times, and I would literally deny all of the invites. And then one day, finally, I just gave in. So the day of the date arrived, and he was like, hey, I'm gonna be staying a little bit longer at work. Do you mind if we push back the time? And I was like, oh, it's not a problem. So instead of us going out to dinner around 7 p.m., we ended up going out around 9 p.m. Around 8:30, I get a text from Edwin, and Edwin goes, hey, I just got off of work. I'm about to get home, and then I'm going to shower really quickly, and then we can, go on our date. And I was like, okay, that's fine. He then proceeds to ask me, hey, Ash, would you be okay to drive? Would I consider that a red flag, or should I just say yes? I ended up saying yes, it was okay, because he ended up telling me how exhausted he is from work, but he doesn't want to cancel on me, which is why he asked me. This man is tired and he's asking me to drive. I would much rather feel safer me driving than being in the passenger seat with someone who is driving me around and is falling asleep on the road. You know me personally, you know that I love to drive, so I did it my day. Edwin lived 35 minutes away from me, but going the opposite of where the restaurants are. So I ended up picking him up. We said hi to each other, and then after that, I'm literally driving off, and he goes, oh, you wouldn't mind if I fell asleep for a little bit? And I was like, no, I wouldn't mind at all. What am I gonna tell this guy? Oh yes, I would mind. On our way to the restaurant, this man is sleeping. I understand you're tired from work, and I respect the fact that you still came out to go on a date. I would have much rather you canceled instead of you sleeping in the damn car while we are on the way to go eat. It was a very awkward, and I just decided to turn the volume to the radio full blast. At that point, I just felt like I was an Uber driver. I didn't feel like I was on a date. The most I know about this man is what he does for work and how many siblings he has. But besides that, I know nothing of him, and how am I gonna get to know somebody if you are literally sleeping? So I want to say at this point 40 minutes passed, and we finally arrived to the restaurant. We arrived to the restaurant. Thankfully, we did not have to wait to get seated. Oh, you think it couldn't get any more worse? We get seated, and at this restaurant they are playing loud music. We legit have to scream at the person in order to be able to hear them. And to top it off, we were literally in front of the DJ, so I was like, okay, this is this is how this is gonna go, huh? When I tell you, the moment we got our drinks, we did not
Office
talk
reset.
the rest of the date. It was so awkward. I would literally sip my drink, look at him, and just kind of like give an awkward smile. At this point, I did not want to be there, but I just didn't have the balls to get up and leave. I don't think you guys understand how badly this date was. We did not have one conversation. When I tell you guys, I did not learn one new thing from this man. Obviously, earlier in the video, I told you guys that I knew how many siblings he had and things like that, and also what he did for work. But besides that, that's literally all I knew. I could not get to know him. I could not ask questions because of how loud the music was, and it was just awkward overall. Like, I don't know, this date was so horrible. Edwin and I finished our food. We ended up leaving. He ended up paying, and at this point I was like, I'm gonna just let this man pay, because I offered to put my card down and he didn't let me, and I was like, all right, I'm not even about to argue, because if him and I keep arguing about the damn bill and who's gonna pay, then we're gonna stay here longer, and I just don't want to be here anymore. So we get out of the restaurant, and I remember he was like, are you okay to drive? And I was like, I literally didn't drink, I'm okay to drive. Y'all, my eye teared up trying to put my lashes on. This is how I felt on that date. When I tell you guys, we weren't even 2 minutes into the car ride when I look right to the passenger side and this man is sleeping again. And I was like, dude, him and I didn't have a conversation on our way to the restaurant. We didn't have a conversation inside the restaurant because the music was way too loud, and we're definitely not gonna have a conversation on our way back home. At this point, I didn't even care anymore. I just put my music on full blast. I drove home, dropped this man off, and I went home. And the crazy part was he literally wanted us to talk when I dropped him off home at the block of his house. And I was like, oh, absolutely not. Like, I don't even want to be here anymore. And I was like, no, I just really have to go. And ever since then, I never went out with this guy. This guy has been trying to talk to me, but honestly, ignore him. And yeah, that was the end of my horrible date.